A guy who already got kicked out of his own company, who watched two startups nearly go bankrupt in the same year, is about to become the first person in history worth more than $1 trillion. And here's the weirdest part. He says he's not even in it for the money. There's a nasty fight he's already had with a US president, and it didn't cost him a single dollar. And here's an even stranger detail to hit that trillion. He needed three completely different companies to line up at the same time, and one of them barely went public this week. Everybody knows the Musk of today: Tesla, SpaceX, the meme guy with the Twitter fights. But the start of his story is a lot less glamorous. It's the story of a South African who moved to Canada to dodge mandatory military service under apartheid and started out selling software to a newspaper. And here's the interesting part. His first financial miracle wasn't Tesla or SpaceX. It was Zip2, an online content company he built with his brother. Compaq bought it for almost $350 million in 1999, and Musk's cut was $22 million. With that money, he founded X.com, an online payments company. The idea was paying people by email. In 2000, X.com merged with Confinity, a payments company co-founded by Max Levchin and Peter Thiel, among others, and what was left standing was named PayPal. Musk became CEO of the combined company for a while, then moved over to Chief Product Officer, and he's credited as the main brain behind a viral campaign that made the company explode with growth. And here's already the first big plot twist of his career. Over ego clashes and a power struggle inside the leadership team, Musk got kicked out of the top job in late 2000, but he kept a big chunk of the stock, by then under the PayPal name. In February 2002, PayPal went public, selling less than 10% of total shares, raising more than $70 million, and the stock jumped more than 50% on day one, the first successful tech IPO after September 11. Musk's stake, 11.7% of the company, was worth about $86 million. When eBay bought PayPal for $1.5 billion in stock, still in 2002, Musk, then 31, walked away with roughly $172 million. Notice the pattern? He builds something, gets kicked out of control, and still walks away rich. That's going to repeat itself, in different forms, a bunch of times in his life. With his PayPal money, Musk did something that looked crazy at the time. He threw $100 million of his own cash into founding SpaceX in 2002 with the idea of making access to space cheaper than NASA. The next year, he became an investor in an electric car maker that had barely gotten off the ground, Tesla Motors, started by Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning. Musk led the first investment round in 2004 and put roughly $50 million of his own money into different funding rounds. And there's no exaggeration here. Both companies, more than once, came one step away from going under. The worst year was 2008, when SpaceX and Tesla were both on the edge of collapse at the same time. That was the year SpaceX's first three Falcon 1 rocket launches went wrong, and only the fourth, at the end of 2008, worked, saving the company from going up in smoke. That same year, Musk took over as Tesla's CEO in October 2008, right in the middle of the global financial crisis that nearly wiped out the entire auto industry. It was also during that stretch that Tesla launched its first car, the Roadster, the first real electric car of the modern era. This is the kind of moment that, looking back, feels like destiny. At the time, it was just a guy with no safety net, throwing his last resources into two bets that could have gone nowhere. But SpaceX bounced back. In 2012, the Falcon 9 rocket became the first vehicle from a private company to deliver cargo to the International Space Station. And in 2020, SpaceX became the first commercial operation certified by NASA to fly astronauts there. Along with that came Starlink, the satellite internet system announced in 2018, which started bringing broadband to rural areas of the US that previously didn't have decent access and today has plans to expand worldwide. From there on, Musk's life turned into a string of public fights, some technical, some personal, some with the government mixed in. On the regulatory side, in August 2018, Musk announced he was thinking about taking Tesla private. The stock jumped, But the announcement caught the SEC's attention and triggered an investor lawsuit over suspected market manipulation. Musk backed off, and that September, he was forced to step down as board chairman and pay a $20 million fine to the SEC, but stayed on as CEO. On the labor side, Musk and people at Tesla were accused of anti-union practices at a California factory. In 2019, the U.S. Labor Relations Board ordered Musk to delete an anti-union tweet, and Tesla had to rehire a worker who'd been fired for organizing. And there's the self-driving story Autopilot, and later full self-driving. That technology rolled out alongside multiple accidents, at least one fatal, an investigation from U.S. auto safety regulators, and lawsuits from victims. In 2022, the company had to pay $10.5 million to one victim's family. In 2023, even with Musk publicly clashing with regulators over FSD, Tesla recalled 362,000 cars. You can see the pattern here: big promises, real execution problems, and Musk plowing ahead with barely any brakes and usually coming out richer in the end, even when his reputation takes a hit. In April 2022, after weeks of talks, Musk spent about $44 billion buying Twitter and promised to quintuple the company's revenue by 2028. The market hated it. Twitter's value dropped more than $125 billion by the end of that month. Musk tried to back out of the deal, got sued by the company itself for breach of contract, changed his mind again, and closed the purchase at $54.20 a share. The rest is well known: mass layoffs, the rebrand to X, and a wave of controversy over hate speech on the platform. Twitter also went back to fighting Meta the same month the X rebrand was announced. Meta launched Threads to compete head-on. And amid that rivalry, Musk and Mark Zuckerberg even publicly talked about having a martial arts fight against each other. In November 2023, after Musk replied agreeing with an anti-Semitic post, Media Matters found major brand ads showing up next to anti-Semitic and white nationalist content on X, which sent a bunch of major advertisers running, including IBM, Comcast, and Disney. And at the same time, Musk dove headfirst into politics. He became one of the biggest funders and backers of Trump's 2024 re-election campaign, and after the election he was picked to run the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, which cut hundreds of millions of dollars in federal spending, including deep cuts to the Department of Education and diversity programs, plus shrinking the federal workforce and shutting down USAID, the foreign aid agency. Except that alliance with Trump ended in an ugly, very public falling out, a fight over a budget bill that turned into the two of them trading personal attacks on the very social platforms they each control. Musk announced he was leaving the government in May 2025, and even announced a new political party, the America Party. That hit Tesla's stock hard, which dropped sharply over concerns about Musk's erratic behavior. Months later, from what's known, the two billionaires patched things up again. But here's the most recent twist, and maybe the most revealing part of this whole pattern. In October 2025, Musk became the first person to hit a net worth of more than $500 billion, according to Forbes. A month later, Tesla shareholders approved a pay package for him worth up to $1 trillion, but with massive targets attached. He'd need to grow Tesla's value eightfold, sell 1 million AI robots, and sell another 12 million Tesla cars. And then came SpaceX. On the 12th of June, 2026, the company debuted on the Nasdaq after raising $75 billion in its IPO, the biggest IPO in history, beating Saudi Aramco's 2019 record, valuing the company at $1.77 trillion. Musk owns 42% of SpaceX, and that stake is worth somewhere between $743 billion and $866.5 billion. Add it all up, Tesla, SpaceX, and everything else, and his net worth tops $1.1 trillion once the stock starts trading. To put that in perspective, if Musk spent $1 million every single day, it would take him nearly 3,000 years to go broke. That means if he had started spending before the birth of Christ, he'd still be a billionaire today. But the real scale of his wealth isn't about money, it's about power. When you measure his fortune by the total amount of human labor it could buy, Musk becomes literally the wealthiest human being in history, richer than the Roman emperors, richer than the oil kings. He is an economic phenomenon the world has never seen before. Musk started out selling software and got kicked out of his own company before anyone even knew his name. He bet every dollar he had on two ideas that almost went under together in the same year. He fought governments, stood up to unions, and picked fights with the entire media. And yet, or maybe because of all that chaos, he became the world's first trillionaire. That's exactly why we dig into these stories here. If billionaire backstories, the stock market, and geopolitics make sense to you, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. And your like goes a long way in helping us keep bringing this content. See you in the next one.